Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Friday, TGIF. It is 9:46. A pretty nice fall day, getting close to winter here. It's Friday, so hope everyone's got some fun plans or doing something cool. I'm excited. We have a really fun show coming up tomorrow with Quantum. We're going to be back at Hate Sailor, which is such an awesome venue. We've been really fortunate to have played a lot of gigs there the last year, almost 2 years now. And so this is going to be a show tomorrow with a group of other bands called Mannequin Republic, So Over It, and Isaac Raven, and ourselves. And it's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be a little bit of a perishable part of the event. Is it's going to be a perishable food drive event for the Belfast Soup Kitchen. So, which I think is a really cool cause and really worth getting behind. My friend Leo put this show together, who I play in with Osmia. Originally, I think way back when this idea came up to book this show, Osmia was going to be on the bill, but then he wanted to kind of switch things out a little bit. He had the idea and he asked me if I'd want to do it as Quantum. And the one of the bands on the bill for tomorrow, So Over It, was a band that Osmia had played with in, I think it was in August at this really sweet music festival down in Rhode Island. It's been fun. We've been going on the road, and we did a fairly big tour earlier this year, and then we did a short little, brief little tour in August, and then next year we're gonna do another tour again. I think we might go a little bit further, but anyway, um, one of the bands that was playing at the festival in Rhode Island was this really cool band called So Over It. And I ended up talking to the singer of the band. She was really cool. We ended up like hanging out outside because again there were like two stages going. There was like the bigger room with a big stage, and then there was like the side room, which was a really cool spot. And it was I don't know how many bands. There must have been like 30 bands playing, and they just kept playing. One band would play and set would end, and then the next band would play, and it was this constant thing. And it went from early afternoon until about midnight, and it was great. I saw some really fantastic bands, all kinds of variety. There was a lot of acoustic stuff. There was some punk bands. There was some, you know, more I guess traditional rock bands. So it was cool, and we played there with Osmia, and So Over It was playing in the other room, and I got to see their set, and I think they got to see our set, and we ended up talking quite a bit before we both played for a while, and it was they were really cool, and it's their first time coming up to Maine. It's also they're on a tour, so Power Trio, so it should be really cool. And so that's going on tomorrow, and then Sunday, which is the reason I'm doing this show. I'm going to see the new Predator movie Badlands, which I'm actually really excited to see. Haven't been, I've been going to the movies fairly regularly, more than I had been, which I love going to the movies. So it's been really great being able to go back. But the Predator Badlands is a movie I'm really excited about seeing. I try, like, and I've said before in shows, I try to stay away from trailers and talk about movies and all of these things. But sometimes I don't, I think I think what's happened for me as far as because obviously when going into a movie, especially if it's a movie that maybe you have very low expectations for, or maybe a movie that you have extremely high expectations for before you go into it, all of those things can really can influence your mindset. and that is not, you know, always the best. But I have found for me, as I've gotten older, it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't really affect me as much. I don't really, I'm able to kind of like, turn off everything when I go into a movie and try to get that real kind of clear-headed experience. Whereas before, I think I would go into it thinking, oh, it's going to be this or going to be that. I'm pretty good with just turning it off. So, but I still, that being said, I still try to stay away from lots of talk, reviews, definitely spoiler uh, reviews. But again, movies that I'm really anticipating like that I'm really excited to see. Sometimes I'll just like kind of give into that, and I will check out trailers. I will check out reviews, but I will cut them off when they get to a certain point where I feel like it's getting to a spoiler kind of or it's starting to venture into spoiler territory. I did that a lot with last year or yeah, well last year I guess now with Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. That was a movie I was really, really, really anticipating. And I did see a lot of shit about the movie, read things about it, saw reviews, and all of these things. And I heard a lot of negative things about that movie, a lot of criticisms. And then I also heard a lot of very, very positive things. It was pretty mixed, but I'd say mostly on the positive side. And I went into that movie totally cold, knowing a lot about it. And of course, we've all seen and heard that story many, many times. But it didn't affect me. I feel like I went in and just forgot about everything I read about, that I heard about. I just went in with a clean slate and just, we had the experience. And I absolutely fell in love with that movie. So, and that happens every now and then. And it's kind of what's been happening with Predator Badlands because it's a movie I've been really, really wanting to see. I did see, I saw one trailer for it and I was instantly kind of blown away by it. I thought it looked really fantastical. I thought it looked really very, very, very sci-fi. Of course, the original film with Schwarzenegger. Of course, in some ways the Predator movie, the first one, is kind of like that perfect combo of science fiction and action and also horror. So I mean, of course, science fiction has always been very much a massive part of this whole kind of concept. But this movie, I the reaction that I got from the trailer was that it was like very much like full throttle sci-fi, which I'm, again, a massive science fiction fan, and it looked visually beautiful. It looked fresh, and from what I've heard about this film is it is something new and that it is a fresh concept because the Predator franchise is super mixed, and I wanted to talk. Today's show is going to be talking. I'm going to talk about kind of my anticipation to see Predator Badlands, and then also talk about the other movies in the franchise and just things around it. So there are definitely a handful of films. Predator, the original, the classic with Schwarzenegger, came out in '87. The sequel, 1990, Predator 2, and then Predators, which was the third one, came out in 2010. And then The Predator, 2018, and then Prey, which came out in 2022. And then there was an animated movie, Predator, Killer of Killers. And now we have arrived at Predator Badlands. So it's a super mixed bag here, And then this list isn't even really including the Predator versus Alien films, which I think there's like two of them, which are not very good. I'm not even really inclined or excited to talk about them. But the original is, such a classic. I mean, it's like it was directed by John McTiernan, who is, he was one of the greatest action directors of the 80s and 90s. I mean, Die Hard, um, The Hunt for Red October, so many, so many great films. Huge fan of his work, and I feel like Predator. I mean, Predator came out in '87, and I'm a huge old school Schwarzenegger fan, and I would say it's either, as far as like my favorite films of his, it would have to be either like the Terminator or Predator. Predator might be the one. I grew up watching Predator like millions of other kids, seeing it on TV and then seeing it on VHS and then seeing it on cable. I do own Predator on Blu-ray. I have a really beautiful edition of Predator. It's, I mean, it's one of the most iconic films ever, and especially again, it's that perfect combination of action. And Schwarzenegger was kind of in his prime at that time. He was riding this like big box office wave, but it's a perfect combination of action, science fiction, and horror, and it's very suspenseful. Whenever I watch this movie, and again, I've seen Predator so many times I can't recall. I couldn't put a number to it. Just watched it not that long ago again. I always forget how suspenseful that movie is. It's really suspenseful, and it really has this kind of espionage, cloak and dagger kind of thriller vibe to it, like this thread that kind of ties the suspense or ties the horror elements to it. It's really great. It's such a fantastic movie. And then the second one, which came out, Predator 2, which came out in 1990. And of course, I don't think the intention of the first movie, I don't think John McTiernan or Schwarzenegger necessarily set out to like turn Predator into this like huge IP. With all six or seven of these movies, and then the crossover series with with Alien and Predator versus Alien films, and where the Predator creature or monster has gone on to become so iconic. I don't think they intended to make it into this franchise, because I do think it's truly when you watch Predator, there it's its own thing. It's truly a standalone film. But the studios, Predator, of course, was massively huge. It was a huge hit, one of the biggest movies of Schwarzenegger's career. So, of course, the studios decided to milk it and make a sequel. Danny Glover's in it. I think Gary Busey's in it too, and it stars, and it was directed by Stephen Hopkins, and it's basically, the Predator returns to is in cities now, and there are some things about this movie that are actually pretty good. There's some pretty good kills. There's some pretty good violence in this movie, but overall, it's kind of a clunky mess. I've always thought this film, and I remember seeing it when it came out, because when I was a kid, Predator was like the shit, and I used to watch it all the time. And then when I remember hearing that there was going to be a sequel, I was excited, and it's kind of a clunky mess. It's not very good. There are some good action sequences in it, particularly around this whole sequence with these drug dealers that's pretty brutal, and they do get a little bit more into the world of the Predator and the Predators like as a species, but it's kind of a clunky mess, and it's no, I don't think it's anywhere near as good. It's, when you compare the two, it's kind of pale in comparison, and you can kind of tell that they just tried to make this into a cash cow, or their attempt, the studios, to make this into a cash cow. And aside from a few pretty good set pieces or action sequences, it's not very good. It's one of those movies I feel like you can just kind of forget about. And then in 2000, or actually no, wait, when did this come out? And then in 2010, the third movie came out, Predators, which was directed by Nimrod Antal, and Adrian Brody stars in this film, and Robert Rodriguez, the famous director, El Mariachi and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Sin City. I mean, he made a lot. The Faculty. He produced this film and got really behind this movie, and I do not like this movie. I think this movie is a mess. I think the whole concept of where they tried to like have these people that were being dropped off on this planet that was kind of inhabited by these predators, and they're these criminals, and they have to fight their way to freedom. It's just such a ridiculous movie. I do not like this movie. I think it's one of the worst in the franchise. It's such a mess, and you can kind of tell with the script and the story, and these other alien creatures, these other predator creatures that they try to introduce, that they were just like throwing shit on the wall trying to like figure it out what direction this movie or franchise was going to go. I own that on DVD, and I do not like that movie. Visually, I will say it looks pretty cool. There are a couple of cool creative kills in the film. Visually, it does look pretty good. It feels like it has a higher production value, but it's such a lame movie. It's such a lame movie. And then that brings us to the film that is absolutely, I think, in the Predator franchise, I think this movie is an absolute atrocity. This is probably the worst up until this point in the franchise. 2018's The Predator, and directed by Shane Black. I don't even really want to talk about this film. It's so bad. It's kind of like this bad joke. And, this was hyped as going to be the movie that's going to bring back the Predator franchise and revitalize it. And it was such an utter disaster in every way. Yeah, I've only seen this movie once, and that was enough for me. And then fast forward to the next movie, Prey, in 2022. And it was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. This movie came out of nowhere because I think that this movie is fucking awesome. I love Prey. I think it's easily the best thing since the first Predator movie. It blows away every movie that's come out. Any of the spin-off movies, it's awesome. It was weird because this movie came out. It never came out in the theaters. It never saw the light of day of a theatrical run. It was strictly streaming. It came out during COVID and all of that, all of the horse shit that was going on, and it was the age of where streaming platforms really took over the landscape for films. And it came out, it's hard to believe it came out 2022 already. And it was a Hulu original, just an absolutely fantastic film. It very much has the vibe of the first one, where it's more stripped down, it's more direct, a lot of suspense, great visuals. It's really exciting. It's an awesome movie, and it's great characters, like the first one. Just really great characters. It's a really good story. It's awesome. I just think it's awesome, and I don't stream movies, so I did not see Predator. I should say I did not get a chance to see Prey. I had to wait forever, and at one point, if you were there was a point of where the studios had announced that they were not gonna release Prey in physical media form, Blu-ray or DVD or 4K. And this movie, when Prey came out, it was very successful. It like really, made everyone excited, and it was a huge hit. And people, there was an outcry from the fans. I mean, the Predator franchise, if you want to call it that, is definitely a big audience. And even though it's been a mixed bag, and there's been some really terrible movies in the franchise as a whole, it's still obviously financially very viable, and it's still a huge audience. And the success, was really through the roof for Prey. So there was a an outcry from the public, basically, and the fans that, well, this movie is so good, it deserves to get some good treatment, with a really great Blu-ray 4K edition. And due to pressure from the public, the studios did that and released it. And then I remember, I think it was last year, I bought it. It sat for almost 2 years where there was no news about it. And then about, I think it was last year, it actually got put out on Blu-ray, and I snagged it up. I have Prey on Blu-ray, and I got this beautiful edition, and it's absolutely amazing. The other thing that I love about this movie, and I think it's one of the strengths of the first one, is that it's a real original kind of concept. And I think Prey is so radically, it goes back to the core of the first one, but it's such a different environment, and it's a new look. It's really fresh, and it puts the predator creature in a world we've never seen before, and that's really what I think this franchise needed. And then after that, which I have not seen, which I do want to see, um, and I think Prey is easily the best movie in the franchise since the original, hands down. It blows away everything else. I think it's in some ways just as good as the original. So, Predator Killer of Killers is an animated movie that was also directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed Prey, which I heard is really, really awesome. It's supposed to be an animated Predator movie. I have not seen it, but I heard it was really good. It came out in June of this year, but I haven't seen it. But I definitely want to check it out. And then that brings us to the movie, the newest one, Predator Badlands. Also directed by Dan Trachtenberg. And from what I gather and from what I've heard, is that this movie kind of continues in the tradition of what he wanted to do, what Dan Trachtenberg did with Prey, where, really did something new and attempted to do something really different, give the public some really new and fresh ideas that we have never seen before. So we'll see. I've heard mostly good things about it. It looks very, very different, which I'm already on board. I think Predator is one of those great characters that you can, especially when it's handled well, Dan Trachtenberg, you could, you could put him in any kind of situation, any kind of environment, and it could be really, really cool. You could put him in any kind of, time period in history. I think that would be interesting. So we'll see. I'm going to see it on Sunday. We're going to go to the 6:30 Sunday night show at Flagship. I'm going to go with couple of buddies, a couple of friends, and I will definitely do a big show review. I've been kind of anticipating this movie for about a year, so I'm really excited to see it. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it doesn't suck. So anyway, thanks again. Peace.